waivers. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Martinez, and Ms. Hunter will get started. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ms. Martinez. I'm one of the school counselors here at Tech, so I'll be presenting this with Ms. Hunter.
Hi, and I am Ms. Hunter. I'm the College Readiness Specialist at Oakland Tech for all grades. We do have some special guests here. I know you guys see the moderators, but I want to introduce you guys to some of the college access programs we have in the College and Career Center. So I do see Ms. Hazel and I see Ms. Viv. If Ms. Hazel could introduce herself, that'd be great.
Aloha, everyone. Good evening. I'm Hazel Amina with the UC Berkeley Upper Bound program, and welcome, Miss Vivian.
Hello, I'm Miss Viv. I'm with the UC Berkeley EAOP program, which is also a college readiness program for 9th through 12th graders, I would say.
Thank you guys for that. So I just want to talk about how the program's going to go. We're going to do a presentation. The presentation is going to consist of a lot of information, so I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed. So if you have a question that's pertaining to that particular slide, please use the question and answer to ask a question, but we do prefer if you do save your questions towards the end. If you have a question that you think you're going to forget about, please do put it in the Q&A, and our moderators will let you know if we're going to answer it live or if we're going to save it for the end. Okay, so just want to let you guys know. Then we'll have a wrap up, and then we'll have some next steps, and then I'll also tell you how you can get an appointment with me or possibly your counselor for some college knowledge. So that will happen towards the end. So please do hang tight, and we might even do a raffle. So just letting you know. Take it away, Ms. Martinez.
All right, so our planning for success, we're going to be focusing on juniors tonight. So one of the things that we do want to talk with you about is why college? Why should you go to college? And college can mean a lot of things. It does not necessarily mean UC, like a UC system or a Cal State. There are a lot of different types of colleges, and there are a lot of different types of programs that you might be interested after high school. The important thing is trying to figure out what you might be interested in and making a plan for post-secondary options. So people who have attended some college report that higher levels of job satisfaction, they usually have higher incomes, they usually enjoy benefits such as health insurance, paid vacation, retirement plan, learning life skills. So having a plan for what you want to do after high school is really important. And that includes, like I said, all types of post-secondary plans, including community colleges and trade schools. So just knowing what your paths are through the college system and working with your counselor or a college access partner or Ms. Hunter on kind of narrowing down what you're thinking about now is a good plan, since senior year goes by very quickly. Next slide. All right, so what does happen in college? You're definitely going to want to take advantage of internships and getting job experience, research opportunities, especially at some of the research institutions like the UC system. You get to network for jobs, and you get to learn some leadership skills through organizations on top of your classes and learning the information that you would need for the job that you're preparing for. Next slide. So what some of the things to start thinking about now are, what are your goals? So this is for students specifically, like start thinking about these questions. If you don't know what you want to do, we're going to be talking about some resources in a bit that you can use to start researching goals and majors and careers. But what are you interested in after high school? Do you want to learn a trade? Are you more interested in going straight into a career path? Do you want to go straight into that profession? Are you thinking more of obtaining a degree in a specific field, like a bachelor's degree, or maybe even higher, like you want to be a pediatrician and go on to medical school? What are your goals for after high school? And I know a lot of you are in academies, not everybody, but a lot of you are. And there's definitely a lot of career exploration in those academies. So now is a good time to start thinking about it. Maybe you don't like your academy, so you want to maybe branch out and look at other things, but maybe you're in health and you're really interested in becoming a nurse. So there is a lot of things to be thinking about now as to what you might want to do after high school. And if you don't know, that's totally fine. College is a great way to figure that out and explore what your options are. Up to 80% of college students change their major once they're in college. So that's not necessarily abnormal. I changed my major at least twice at UC Santa Cruz. I went in as a bio major and then switched to environmental science, and then became a science teacher, and then switched my career completely and became a counselor and went back to school to get a master's degree in school counseling. So, you know, what you decide to do in college might not be your career path forever, but just know that it is a good place to start exploring things. And if you want to go in as undecided at many of the campuses, that's something that you can do and then change later once you've had some classes and some more experience. Next slide. Okay, so, and I just put this on here. We're going to be posting the presentation on the website, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what is available to you as well outside of the four-year realm of career technical education programs. So we do have a lot of students that are either not sure what they want to do or know that going straight into a four-year school or a two-year and then transferring is not necessarily the path for them. Our Peralta schools have a huge list of trade programs to get you either associate's degrees, certificate programs in a ton of different career options. And for you guys as Oakland students, your first year is free for tuition. So many of these programs would be free for you. So if you're interested in carpentry, if you are interested in cosmetology, if you're interested in nursing, Merritt actually has a nursing program that you can go into. If you're interested in video arts, there's a landscape program up at Merritt that's really cool as well that I have toured. But there are a ton of different options in a ton of different fields. So I just wanted to put this up here, but you can look more on the Peralta websites for more information about these programs. But just know that CTE programs can be a huge option and a very good option for students to go straight into a career with some training. And many of these types of careers have the benefits I was talking about before, where you're going to earn higher pay because you're trained. You have the option a lot of times for healthcare and retirement benefits and vacation time. So there's a lot of benefits to going through a program to get into a career path. Next slide.
So I did miss a very important person, so I apologize. I do want to introduce him real quick. And this is Mr. Ron Marshall. He's with the TRIO program. Ron, are you there?
Yes, thanks, Ms. Hunter. Yes, my name is Ron Marshall. I'm a UC Berkeley Talent Search Program. Enjoy the presentation. If you have any questions, please, I'll be around.
Thank you so much, Ron. I appreciate it. So sorry, there's a little bit of construction going on. So basically, when you're looking for where you want to go or where you want to end up in the end of the day, you need to find your passion, right? So you're thinking of like, what do I like to do as a hobby? What could I do to make money as well? So you could take a career assessment as well. So there's a career assessment that's roadtripnation.com/edu/career finder. We also have one that I like. I hope that's not too loud. I also have one that I really like. I can send it to you guys. It's California Career Zone. It's like a Holland Code type based assessment. So please let me know if that's something you guys do want. I can send it out. You can also turn a hobby into an interest, like I was saying, something that I've done. I love working with the youth. Not every goal has to begin with a 4-year degree. And I say this just because we all think that going to a 4-year means like automatic success, but there are 2-month, 3-month, 6-month, 2-year programs that could get you to your goal as a nurse, as a construction manager, or any of those type of things. Okay. There's a lot of research that goes into these things, and me and Mr. Holiday is the work-based learning liaison, would love to help you guys do that. So please reach out to us. I can see, oh, thank you, Hazel. The California Career Zone is in the chat. Please use it. I will give it to you if I ask you what your major is and you say you don't know. I'm going to send you that link. So take the link now, figure it out. It'll give you a lot of feedback on what you're interested in. Okay. Next slide. So choosing a college, this is really important. So a lot of students come to me and say, Miss Hunter, what school should I go to? I really want to do nursing. And that's very broad and very general. So now we have to get down to like, where do you want to be for the next 4 to 5 years, possibly even longer if you stay? So you have to start thinking about like, what is your program and major? So if you're just talking about nursing, is there a specific type of nurse you want to be? Is there a specific area you want to work for? Do you want to be in pediatrics, anything like that? So you do want to consider those things. If you can't really narrow that down, start thinking about college size, right? So East Bay is a much smaller school, more intimate, versus UC Berkeley has over 30,000 students. So thinking about where you want to actually be. Class size is important too. There are large schools like Stanford that still maintain a 30-person class size. And then there are large schools like UC Berkeley that have over 300 in an auditorium style. So if that's something you're not comfortable with, you should consider those when you're picking your school. Locations or distance from home. That's really important because some people want to stay in California. Like you feel like you have everything here, the snow, the fall, the sun, and you don't want to leave, but you want to be a little further from your mom or your dad or your parents. So understanding what is your comfort level is super important when choosing your school. A lot of students will apply to a school based on the name and find out it's in Pennsylvania, right? Like you actually have to fly there. So really consider like how far away from home are you comfortable with being? Campus culture, support programs, extracurricular activities are really important. And I say this because you don't want to have a culture shock when you get to the school. You're like, oh, I know about the school. I don't know much about it. You can look at the demographics. You can look up if they have programs that support your identity. That's really, really important to make sure that you guys are looking for that. A lot of people pick the schools and when they get to the campus, they're uncomfortable or they can't find things that they're interested in. But you can look at these things before you commit to a school. So please do that. I've heard a lot of feedback from students when they do panels like, oh, I wish I had known this. I would have chose a different school. So make sure you're making those decisions now. Cost of attendance is last because ultimately cost matters. But the problem with that is if you look at the sticker price, which is like how much it costs to live there, go there, transportation there and from, it can look really big. But if you deduct how much they're giving you, how much you may have saved for college, and how much you really actually need for books and stuff, you'll find out that it's actually affordable in certain cases. So please don't see a sticker price for $70,000 and assume because maybe you're low income that you're not going to get into, or you're not gonna be able to afford it. Because actually low income with a private school means more money than a state school, right? So definitely consider all types, private, public, state, non-state, etc. Out of state if you like. So just letting you know. Next slide. You wanna take this or you wanna keep going?
On.
Okay. So dream schools, these are reach schools. So if I meet with you, which we will meet, you have to understand what a dream school is. It's like, I wish I could go to this school. It's not that you may not qualify. It just means that you're not on the higher spectrum of the acceptance range. Okay. It's a reach, if that makes sense, right? You're reaching for this school. It's not that you won't grab it, you won't grasp it. It's just a reach. So it's going to take a little bit more effort, a little bit more on edgeness when it comes to these types of schools. So a dream school is where your academic credentials, they fall on the lower end. Sometimes they fall below and you can still get in, but it's a little like, it's like shaky when it comes to like your confidence in applying to the school. Make sure you maintain that confidence though, because if you want to apply, it'll come out in your personal statements and letters of rec. The school's average range for the cohort students based on the previous year could be almost exactly where you are, could be a little lower, higher, etc. But you know that you almost have a chance. Okay, so with that being said, dream schools are you dreaming, but dreams do come true, right? So really consider that. And even cost of attendance can be more manageable based on which school you're going to, if you have other strengths in other areas, because academics aren't the only thing, right? Some of us or some of the students may be involved in more things than solely just getting straight A's, right? And they will see that in your application, okay? Next slide. So a target match. So this means like, okay, like your academics, they're there, right? You're falling within the medium, the middle range of everything. You're not on the high end, you're not on the low end, but you're like not really too sure what's going on. So in the target schools, there's no guarantees, but you know you fit that school. That's the match part of it. And your target is that if you continue down the road that you're on, you most likely will get into this school. A lot of these schools sometimes are still very competitive. They're very selective still. So that's where it comes to like, you're not guaranteed that admission. So just know that these are schools like, okay, I could definitely get in, but because of the competitiveness of the school, we'll have to see. Next slide. Safety schools. Now, safety schools can be questionable, and I'll tell you why. Because a safety school means that you're kind of on the high end and you have everything they're asking for, maybe even a little bit more. And sometimes our students can still get rejected. And this comes down to how much space they have in the school, who they're taking, what type of school it is, what financial aid was available based on your information. But most likely it's about 90% of the schools that are safety schools, you're going to get in. So for Oakland Tech, our safety schools are East Bay and SF State. So these are California State universities, and they're really good schools. They're hands-on schools. They're research-based schools, right? But with that being said, a lot of students, they want to get up and leave. There are no safe schools when it comes to a California UC or CSU because it's just getting more and more competitive, right? A 3.0 doesn't guarantee you to a UC, et cetera. So just want to let you guys know, those are our two safe schools. If you're looking to go out of state, we have several schools that I can guarantee you guys admissions to based on the criteria, right? So you'll be a 3.0 and they accept a 2.5 with X amount of SAT score, et cetera. Put those together, you're guaranteed admission. But those are case by case. So you'd actually have to meet with me for us to do that. And you'd have to know your major. I just want to say there are no safety schools for engineering and no safety schools for nursing. Just wanted to let you know that. So no matter how easy it is to get in, it's still competitive. Ms. Martinez?
So when you're researching your college choices, like Ms. Hunter was saying, consider all types of colleges when you're making your list. So private schools, like she said, can sometimes offer you more money than a state school. We see that quite frequently, especially if you have a GPA above where their average is. The public schools, UC and Cal State, there's a ton of them to look into and really be mindful of those things she talked about with size, location. Are you going to be living off campus? Some areas are cheaper than others. Trying to live off campus at San Francisco State or UC Berkeley does not have the same cost as trying to live off state in a more less urban area like Chico, for instance. Consider community colleges. Merritt, Laney, BCC, and Alameda are 4 local Peralta schools, but you can actually attend any community college in the state. You don't necessarily, or even out of state, you don't necessarily need to go to one that is local. You can go to any of them. Chabot is down in Hayward, Contra Costa. There's a lot of other ones in the area you can go to as well. So research, if you're thinking community college, research all of them and kind of see what might be a good fit for you. Out-of-state public schools, those are becoming more and more popular with students, like University of Oregon, University of Hawaii. I have a lot of students that applied in Colorado and Arizona as well. Typically for out-of-state publics though, just be mindful of the fact that many of them have out-of-state tuition that is comparable to a private school. So it's not necessarily as cheap as going to a UC or a Cal State. It's the same thing if somebody from Oregon wanted to go to one of our Cal States, they have to pay an out-of-state tuition. So just be mindful of that when you're looking. There are some schools that are part of it's called WUI, the Western Undergraduate Exchange. And you can look that up and you can get potentially reduced tuition as a California student if you qualify for WUI. It's not every school, and the list is becoming smaller as schools become more competitive, but there are definitely quite a few out-of-state publics that you could get reduced tuition as a California student if they participate in that program. So definitely look into that. And here are some other websites you can look at to kind of search for these things. They'll ask you questions like, do you want to stay in the state? Are you interested in private schools? What type of size are you looking for? So you take a survey essentially, and then it will give you a bunch of colleges that match your criteria. So these are all really good websites. And I know Ms. Hazel has been putting some other links for college search programs or search websites in the chat. So you can also look at those websites as well. But this is a good place to start. This is one of the biggest things that I would say if you are considering going straight into a 4-year or a community college, you start now. You do not want to get to senior year and not have a list of where you're thinking of applying at that point and be scrambling to do that at the same time as your applications. You should have this done by the end of summer. So when you go into senior year, you can then focus on actually doing the applications because most of them are due in the fall. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more on the next slide, but now and summer is a good time to start doing this research. All right, next slide. So these are the requirements if you are considering applying straight into a four-year application and a four-year college. And for these schools, when you apply, it's called applying as a first-time freshman. That means that you are going in, you have not been to college before. Your dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment classes do not count. You will be able to transfer them, but that doesn't put you in necessarily a higher level when you apply. You're still applying as a first-time freshman. So for the A through G courses, so this is specific to the University of California and the California State University system. Our high school graduation requirements are also the A through G requirements. So as long as you are graduating high school and you have C's or higher in your A through G courses, which is pretty much everything that we offer besides PE, you are eligible to apply to these systems. They do not count D's though. So there are some exceptions for validation and elective, so you could still be eligible with the D. It just depends on the class, but just take it as a blanket to stay on the safe side. C's are higher in all of your academic classes, your English, your math, your science, your history classes. C's are higher if you want to qualify for these systems. They will not take the D's. Private schools will look at your full transcript. So they're going to look at all your grades. And as long as we give credit, which we do for D's, you can still graduate high school with a D. You can still get into private schools. They're not as strict on the C or higher thing. That's a pretty specific thing to A through G. It doesn't look great to have a D, but it doesn't make you ineligible to apply either. So just generally though, I would recommend you should be focusing on C's or higher in all your classes. Private schools are going to look at your cumulative weighted GPA. So you can look at that on your transcript in Aries. And they're also going to look in your class rank, which is based off that. Cumulative means it's going to take into account every single class you've taken all the way from freshman year until, for some schools, your first semester of senior year, because they will get a mid-year report in January that has updated grades that they will consider from senior year to admit you. So it's really important to keep your grades high. For the UC and the Cal State system, though, they only look at 10th and 11th grade academic grades. They will look at your freshman courses. You still need C's or higher in those classes to qualify for A through G, but the GPA that they're looking at will only be calculated from 10th and 11th grade. So for the UC system, you need to have at least a 3.0 to apply. And for the Cal State system, you need to have a minimum of a 2.0 to apply, in addition to the coursework. The one exception to this is Cal Poly. San Luis Obispo does look at your 9th grade grades in the GPA calculation, but all of the other schools in both systems only look at 10th and 11th grade. And then for you guys next year, I don't know what the school year will look like at this point. If we happen to be back on quarter again and not semester, you might actually have some first quarter grades to report senior year. That did happen with our current seniors this year because grades got posted in October and the applications are due in November. So they actually did have some grades to report. Typically though, when we're on the semester-based system, you guys do not get your final grades for fall semester until January. And that is 2 months after you've actually applied. So you still get credit for your senior year courses, but they're just not included in the GPA. The other thing that I get questions about, and this is related to the pandemic, is test scores. Right now, SAT and ACT test scores are suspended for most schools. UC at this point has said that they are just not accepting SAT and ACT scores for the next few years for applicants, and then they are potentially going to have their own testing system for students at that point. But they are no longer going to be accepting SAT or ACT scores. And same thing for the Cal States, at least for your class going into next year. They're not going to be requiring them. And some of the schools can't even see it. You can put them in optionally so they can see it. They are not supposed to be used for admissions though. It's more to place you in courses once you are admitted, like your math and your English class. They can use your SAT score if you happen to have taken it. But it's not supposed to be used for admission. And some of the campuses have gone test blind, meaning that even if you put it in, the admissions officer can't see it at all. So some private schools still would like test scores, but most of them are also test optional at this point because they know it's been difficult for students to sign up for these exams. So if you're not able, and I'm going to go a little bit more into the testing and the in a few slides, but if you're not able to take it, I would just say do not stress about it at this point. The other thing that is really important, though, that is going to be even more important because the test scores are optional, is your extracurricular activities and your essays. So what are you doing with your time outside of school? That is the question you need to answer on your applications. Do you have an internship? Do you have a job? Do you volunteer? Are you in clubs, sports? Have you been taking community college classes potentially? I know a lot of kids take our concurrent and dual enrollment courses. Do you have to watch your siblings? It doesn't matter what you are doing specifically. They want to know that you are using your time wisely outside of school. If you have to work every day after school to help support your family and you can't do clubs, that's okay. You just need to tell them that so they know what you are doing with your time, instead of just hanging out at your house playing video games all evening, every evening. So that's a really big one. And then you will also have some essays depending on the system. All right, next slide. If you are interested in going into a community college or a CTE, career technical education program, we have a full week in April for our seniors to go through community college options and help you all apply. But essentially, community colleges and these programs are open for any student. Doesn't matter how you did in high school. You can go as long as you are 18 or you have a high school diploma or equivalent. So if you happen to be 16 and you took the CHESP, the California High School Proficiency Exam, you can enroll straight into a community college. They don't look at your high school transcript and say yes or no. Anyone is accepted into the community college as long as you meet one of those criteria. So this can be a great option for students who want to save some money. That has been happening more this year, especially with the pandemics. A lot of our seniors from last year just decided it wasn't worth the money to go to a four-year school and be at home doing online learning that they could potentially do for free at a community college. So if you're thinking of saving some money and doing the 2-year route and transfer, this can be a great option. Or if you had a specific school you really wanted to get into, like I want to go to UC Berkeley, and you did not get into UC Berkeley, this is a good way to go back, do your 2 years of general ed and reapply as a transfer student. When you do that, they won't look at your high school transcript. So that is not going to be taken into consideration. They will only be looking at what you did while you were at the community college. So that can also be a great way to get into the school of your choice. I would not recommend, you can do this, but it's more difficult. Let's say you got into Cal State East Bay, but did not get into UC Berkeley, and you're thinking of going to East Bay and then transferring to Berkeley. That path is not as easy as doing a community college transfer. The UCs and the Cal States are going to prioritize transfers from the community college first, essentially because they have nowhere else to go after the 2 years. Then they will look at transfers from other schools that are 4 years. So you can definitely do both routes, but if your goal is really to do that, it's easier to transfer from a community college. And there, Ms. Viv put a link in the chat as well. There's going to be a community college event coming up on February 18th from 4 to 5, if you would like some more information about the community college process. All right, so the college entrance exams, like I said, they're pretty much been suspended. I do have some students that have been able to sign up. The February ACT was canceled at Tech. Pretty much every SAT and ACT going back to last March at this point has been canceled in OUSD. They normally will not post an official announcement whether the testing site has been closed or not, usually until about a month before. But so you can still sign up for some SAT and ACT in the spring test dates. I don't know if you will still be able to take it at an OUSD school. I think it seems likely they will probably get canceled as well. If you did sign up though and they get canceled, you'll get a refund. There are other school sites that are around if you want to look for other cities to take the test at. But like I said, if you're not able to take it, it's not something that I would say that you should stress about too much. The SAT2 subject test also, those used to be extremely important, especially for students going into engineering programs. Those have been suspended indefinitely. So it doesn't sound like College Board is going to be offering them anytime soon for anybody. So those are no longer a requirement for those programs. But you can check out the difference between the two, the SAT versus the ACT, on our website. There's a really great guide. And there's also a link to the College Board announcement regarding the SAT. They also suspended the essay. They are still offering it for the spring, but they're going to suspend it for the fall. It kind of sounded like they might be considering doing some type of online testing, which is why they're getting rid of the essay, so they can streamline the online process for the SAT in the fall. But I'm not entirely sure what that will look like, but College Board has a really informative page of questions and answers regarding COVID and what their plans are for testing. But I would definitely check out the website or the College Board page for more information about what's going on with both of those tests.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that there will be no testing happening. So I'm seeing a lot of questions asked. There will be no testing happening. I am the ACT coordinator at Tech. I'm not doing any testing. No one's willing to proctor. I understand why. We normally host about 500 students at Tech on a Saturday. We are not going to put them students at risk. So it's not happening. SAT, not happening. We're not going to let it be hosted. The school's closed. AP tests last year were online. They let students do them from home with the appropriate laptop and stuff like that. So we'll make sure students have the appropriate laptop if it goes back online. But Mr. Fairley and Mr. Campisi are running the AP testing and registration. Please reach out to them. I don't have any answers for you. Counselors are going to defer you over there as well. If AP tests are happening, the communication will come through College Board. And if it comes through College Board, it will then go through Mr. Campisi, and then Mr. Campisi will then talk to you guys about it. But when it comes to testing, the whole year is not going to happen. Once again, I don't know when the school's opening or if it's opening or however. When the school opens is when I will start back up ACT testing. So until that happens, you guys will get a big blast from me, trust me, when it is open. But as of right now, there will be no testing. Now, I do just want to say this because we're talking about it. There was a question asked and I want to just answer it. If you are planning on applying to out-of-state schools as a junior, find those schools now. Reach out to those schools, call admissions, and ask them, is it required I have the SAT or ACT? If they say yes, you will have to find a test or consider not applying to that school. There are tests in California happening. There was one in Sacramento. There's one in San Jose. There's actually one about 15 minutes away near Dublin. They're happening. It's limited seating. No one's going to host 500 kids at a school site. So once it opens, you need to hop on College Board and try to catch a seat. Other than that, yeah, just don't take the test, right? So other schools like the historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, you don't have to be Black to go to them. They have their own tests at their school. So you can take a test online for the school, and then they will use that to place you. Okay, so just letting you guys know. So please do, like Ms. Martinez said, you need to start looking for the schools you want. Start calling, like pick up the phone and actually call admissions and ask them, like, is this going to be required? Like, don't wait till senior year. Okay.
And the other thing too is if you are in a situation where you do really want to apply to a school that is requiring this and you need a fee waiver, reach out to your counselor for that. We have the codes for both ACT and SAT we can share with you to get a fee waiver for the test. It will clear your fees for up to 2 exams and also your score reports. So if you do need a fee waiver, reach out. Essentially, fee waivers are available for any student that qualifies for free or reduced lunch or receives any type of assistance or is part of any of the college access programs. So if you're in like TRIO or EAOP, you qualify for these as well. So if you need a fee waiver, reach out. We can give you the code to use when you're doing your sign up. Otherwise, you'll need to pay the fee if you don't qualify for the fee waivers and you want to take these exams. All right, next slide. So I'm not going to go too in depth on this just because it's not really applicable to most of you, I think, at this point, just because it will be extremely hard for you to find these exam sites. But there's just some difference between the SAT versus the ACT that I put up here. But like I said, if you want to look more in depth about what the difference is between those two exams, usually it doesn't matter which one you take. They're both going to be weighted equally at these schools. Just finding the right fit. One of them is going to be a little bit longer than the other. One of them has a science section. The ACT has a science section that the SAT does not. ACT still has the essay component. And like I said, the SAT will until June, but after that, they are phasing that out. And the math is a little bit different on both exams. So you can kind of look and see which one would be more helpful for you. Anything AP related, like Ms. Hunter was saying, that has to go through Mr. Campisi. The counselors do not have access to fee waivers for the AP exam. That goes through him. And anything related to signing up for those. The other, I didn't put this in the slides, but the other question I actually get a lot is applying for accommodations. If you have a 504 or an IEP or some type of situation where you need some accommodations on these tests, like you need access to a computer for typing, or you need a little bit of extra time, or you need a smaller testing environment, anything like that. We do have a testing coordinator at the school, Ms. Haley, that your counselor can help you connect with. You actually have to apply with her and with all your paperwork directly to the College Board or ACT to get those accommodations. They are not automatic. We do not submit paperwork automatically. You have to start that process yourself to qualify for the accommodations. Once the companies confirm that you do qualify, then it will be applicable to all tests you take. So if you apply for an SAT accommodation and College Board says yes, that will then be applicable for any SAT or AP exams that you take through that company. So if you are wanting to look into that, I would reach out to your counselors now to get the information about how to contact Ms. Haley so you can start the paperwork on that, because sometimes it can take a few months to process. All right, next slide. And this is just some more information about ACT. All right, next slide. Ms. Hunter, you want to take paying for college?
Oh, I will. So paying for college, this gets tricky, and I've gotten a lot of questions from 9th grade all the way up until like the last minute of FAFSA. So FAFSA is happening right now. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this is an application you do, and you send this to all the schools, right? So the seniors currently, so if you have any friends that are seniors, ask them how this is going. It is due March 2nd, but obviously due different times. So they're gonna ask questions like, what's your income? Like how much are you making as a student? So if you're currently working, they may ask certain questions like that. And I just want to explain this, and we'll be on the next slide, but it's prior year. So students are using 2019 taxes for 2021. Okay. So you won't have to report the money you've made currently, but they will ask you, like, you know what I'm saying, what's in your bank account, right? So it's play for play, right? So with that being said, they're going to ask you income of your parents, whoever your guardians are, assets. So like if you own more than one home, or you have a business that's accruing money, anything like that, that's going to be considered an asset, trust funds, etc. Family size is important. We always get a lot of questions about that. Like, what is considered family size? It includes anyone that's in your home that's getting taken care of by your guardians. Okay. So grandma can be included if she's not getting aid and they're taking care of her. It does not include or is not restricted to who you claim on your taxes. So for the parents who are on here, it has nothing to do with it. So if you're in a split household and one year you claimed your student and the other year you didn't, it doesn't matter. It's whoever takes care of the student 51% of the time, the cheaper parent. Something else I want to say is, I mean, grandparents are amazing bank accounts, savings accounts. So I'm going to only say that way. So, you know, do it now. Don't wait till senior year to understand what I just said, because it will bite you in the butt. Okay. So number of family members attending college really helps. So if you have an older student or sibling that's in college, it actually benefits the student next year when they're going to college as a senior. So it's really nice if you have multiple kids in college, or if you yourself as an adult are in college as well, getting your master's, getting your bachelor, or even going to community college as an adult. That will actually help you lower your expected costs from the college. So the reason why FAFSA is important is because you get federal financial aid, state aid, institutional aid, and scholarships through this. So we have a lot of parents who like to opt out of the FAFSA, like, oh, I make enough, or we'll get it covered. But you can actually hinder a lot of money coming your way. So merit scholarships, they want to know who they're helping. So if you take away that information from FAFSA or you don't fill it out, unfortunately, sometimes your student does not qualify for certain scholarships. So please do fill it out. If you have your reservations about it, talk to me. I'm an open book. I'd like to do it over the phone, not on a recorded presentation, and we can go through that. So if you have more questions about that, please wait for our one-on-one to ask those questions, and I can help you with those things. Next slide. So if you do the FAFSA or if you do the California Dream Act, so the California Dream Act is for certain students that qualify under undocumented status, et cetera. Those students basically fill out, it's identical to the FAFSA, but just in a different form. And that's only for California money. So your student cannot take that and go to Arizona or go to Oregon or anything like that. So just understand it's for California. You'll get a student A report. So a student A report is called a SAR. And we're always asking for a SAR, but a SAR contains expected family contribution. It's called an EFC. You'll hear that word a lot next year, EFC. It's basically what you're expected to pay. It's a number. Now, it does not represent money necessarily, but it does represent like an estimate of what you can afford. Okay, so when you do all this, you'll get a number, and then you kind of like, okay, so I can see that I might get some financial aid. You can kind of see it's an estimate, right? You'll see if there's any errors when your SAR comes out, and you'll be able to resubmit your FAFSA. I won't really go into how you correct it because since you haven't seen the application, you won't understand what I'm talking about yet. But basically, it's literally just a printout of everything you've already done on the FAFSA, and you can check each number line by line. Schools get this SAR, and that's how they calculate your financial aid package. So I want to make this very clear. FAFSA doesn't give you money. The schools give you money. So if you get a financial aid package, you're like, oh, FAFSA didn't give me anything. It's incorrect, right? The school decided not to get you anything. So whatever you get from the school, you will take up with the school. You will not call FAFSA. You will not communicate with FAFSA. You'll communicate with the school directly. That makes sense. Okay, go ahead, next slide. So here's some types of financial aid. Let me move this around. So there's need-based federal aid, and need-based is important because it's basically if you have gaps in your financial aid. So there's the thing called a Pell Grant. Now, a Pell Grant has restrictions. It's income-based, it's asset-based, so you have to qualify based on that. There's a SEOG grant. What does that stand for again?
Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. It's for low-income students as well.
Thank
through
you.
the
So
federal government.
Thank you. I've received both before, but there was a year that I didn't receive the SEOG. It's really funny criteria. I'll be honest with you. Like I qualified, I thought, and I didn't get it 1 year, and then 1 year went over. It like gave me more money. So sometimes it fluctuates. On my end, I know I was low income. So I think you qualify through FAFSA, and it fills in gaps that maybe Pell Grant or Cal Grant A does not fill. So please look for that. You'll know because it'll be on your package. It will say SEOG. There's no way you can reach out and ask for SEOG. You have to qualify for it. So if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Work study is amazing. So work study is a job on campus that pays higher than jobs that are local, and you don't get taxes taken out. So basically, if you work 2 hours for $15, you take your $30 home. Okay. You do not have to worry about California tax or anything like that. This is money. It's kind of like a loan to work. You can also convert these into loans or convert your loans into work study. Really helpful, really fun, and it shows some responsibility. There's a Perkins loan, which is a low rate loan, super helpful. It comes in and fills in any gaps. Subsidized direct loans are really good too. So subsidized means that you're not paying for your interest while you're in school. You'll pay for it 6 months after you graduate. Okay, so now that we move on to non-need-based federal loan, this is if you have a gap, they think you can afford it, but you're saying you can't, they'll give you an unsubsidized direct loan. So unsubsidized means like 60 days after you receive the loan, you start paying interest. Okay, it's not as bad as you think. If you borrow $3,000, you're looking at a little bit here and there. By the time you graduate, it could go up to like $600 in interest, but you can also pay the interest while you're in school. It's really up to you, or you can save it for the end. But if you're getting a large unsubsidized loan, like $10,000 or $15,000, that's when that interest really can hurt. So you want to get subsidized loans. You don't want unsubsidized loans, but if you need them, take them, okay? But still talk to a professional or an advisor about if you should take it and how much. A PLUS loan, that is a parent loan. So all these loans that I've mentioned right now, subsidized, Perkins, unsubsidized, those go in the student's name. PLUS loans go in the parent's name, and they actually have to qualify based on credit. So a lot of times if a parent can't qualify for a lot, sometimes they could be large, could be up to $5,000 all the way to $45,000. I've only seen them go up that high. If a parent can't qualify, they will move those into a student loan or partially into student loan. But that's a lot of money to go in their student's name, right? A lot of debt. So please consider, if you see that PLUS loan, whether or not you have the money to dish out, you want to convert some into a student one. And if you don't qualify, talking to the financial aid office. So those can get tricky. So please do talk to us, but it is not unordinary to receive one of those. A teach grant is if you are trying to get like possibly a teaching credential, you're going into a major that requires you to teach. This teach grant is not, it's basically a loan, but you don't have to pay it back unless you decide not to teach. So let's say you receive a teach grant, it's about $4,000, and you end up going to get your master's and you just never end up teaching. That will come back to you and convert into a loan. I did receive a teach grant one year, it's only $2,000. I am teaching. They never asked for it back. I don't know how they find out, honestly, but I've had a lot of friends who they got $4,000 and it converted into a loan. So please do be careful accepting things that are not related to you, or if you think that you're not going to actually teach. Other options that I don't like to talk about are private education loans. Sometimes parents and students are going to need them. So I know Wells Fargo is always like reaching out like, hey, I got a loan for you at a ridiculous interest rate. Okay. So we try not to use these options. I've used it only once, and the interest rate can be really high. It's based on credit, right? And if it's a student, sometimes students have little to no credit, and it can really hurt them with as high as a 29% interest rate. Okay. So we want to avoid the other options. We want to stick to need-based and non-need-based. Students tend to stay in this area, but sometimes a student reaches high for a school. Maybe their income is in a weird area, and there's a big gap, and they want to go so bad that they reach out to outside private education loans, and they get stuck with this large bill. So let's prevent using these. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure we're picking the right schools, applying to all the scholarships, right?
I would also add too, with the private loans, those do not qualify for a lot of the federal programs that cancel student debt. So let's say that you go into like the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps or teaching. There's a lot of different ways and programs that you can potentially get your student loans, the subsidized and unsubsidized federal direct loans, forgiven or waived. The private loans do not count in that. It's only federal loans. And also all of your loans, just to put this out there, if you end up having to file for bankruptcy, do not count. They don't count student loans. I don't know why, but they're not included in that. So just be very careful with loans. Have a conversation with Ms. Hunter if you need to before you take them out, and definitely talk with your parents about the loans, because I've also talked with students when we're going over their financial aid packages, and their parents don't really understand that the PLUS loan is under the parent's name, not the student's name. So the parent is the one that's responsible for paying that back. So really understanding the difference between the different types of loans in your financial aid package. This isn't something you really need to worry about right now as a junior, but in about a year, actually, when we're starting this process with our current seniors, these are conversations you need to have before you accept at a school, so you understand what your cost is for that school and what type of loans you're taking out before you accept them. And as Ms. Hunter was saying, the California DREAM Act, this is a separate application. This is specifically for state aid for students that qualify for AB 540. So you can't qualify on the FAFSA for federal aid, but you can definitely get a lot of different types of aid through the state government, including the Cal Grant, which I'll go over actually on the next slide. It's our biggest grant program for the state. As well as there are some loans that you can take out through the state of California There's some other scholarships and grants that you can get through the California Dream Act. It's very, very similar to the FAFSA, but your information is only kept with the state of California. It does not go to the federal government at all. So these are some of the ways that you can get financial aid through the state schools and most private schools. This is how you apply for your financial aid. There are a handful of private schools. It's required by 400 colleges and scholarship programs that will require the CSS profile. This is a form that you fill out with the College Board that is extremely in-depth. So the FAFSA is actually pretty quick to fill out when you do it, or the Dream Act. There's even a button on it that can import your taxes for you, so you don't even need to put in the information. If you have all your documents together, your income, your W-2s, and your tax information, you might be able to get through the FAFSA in like 20 minutes. It's actually a pretty quick form to fill out. But the CSS profile is pretty in-depth, and they're going to ask you about your assets. They're going to be asking you about your real estate. They're going to be asking you about everything that could potentially be used for college payments. So this one, like I said, is going to be required by mainly private schools, in addition to the FAFSA or potentially the Dream Act if it's a California school. So you would fill this out. It's through the College Board. It actually does cost money, but you can get that waived if you qualify for a fee waiver. Khan Academy has some great tutorials to help you filling it out. But like I said, this is something you'll need to worry about next year. And we have a full Road to College event in the fall just for seniors that we will really go into depth on the financial aid applications. But just know these are mainly the 3 forms you will fill out next year to get your financial aid. Next slide. So the Cal Grant is our biggest program for the state to give you money. So the Cal Grant guarantee, if you are a high school graduate or a recent graduate and you meet the eligibility and apply by March 2nd, you are guaranteed to receive a Cal Grant. So next slide. So here's Cal Grants at a glance. Essentially, if you qualify for one of these Cal Grants, you could get potentially all of your tuition covered at a state school. So if you end up going to a UC and you qualify for Cal Grant A, it's going to cover pretty much your entire tuition for 4 years. I qualified for a Cal Grant when I went to UC Santa Cruz, and it definitely helped me be able to afford it. I still had to take out some loans for some other stuff, but having to not worry about paying back my tuition was extremely helpful. So Cal Grant A, the 2 ways you qualify for Cal Grant is your high school GPA, and they're going to be looking at that academic one that you would use for UC and Cal State. So just your A through G courses in 10th and 11th grade are calculated for the Cal Grant, and it is also unweighted, unfortunately. They're not going to give you the bumps for the Cal Grant GPA like you would for admissions. But as long as you have a 3.0 unweighted academic GPA and you qualify for the income ceilings, which I'll have on the next slide, you would get a Cal Grant A, which would cover your full tuition at a state school. If you have a 2.0 to a 3.0, you can also qualify for a Cal Grant B, which gives you a living allowance your first year, and then you get your full tuition plus the living allowance for the next 3 years at the school. So it's still a lot of money. And actually at the Cal States ends up being more money than the Cal Grant A because of the living allowance. But you will get whichever one, if you qualify for both, that is more applicable or gives you the most money. The financial aid office will determine that. If you're thinking of going to a trade school, Cal Grant C can give you a lot of money to pay for all of your books, tools, equipment, and the CTE programs, as well as tuition. So if you're not going to go to a California community college. So that one is also a great one if you're considering a trade school, and that one just has the ceiling caps. So as long as you meet the income requirements, which I'll go over on the next slide, you will qualify for Cal Grant C. So the last thing though is if you're community college and transfer, usually what you will do if you qualified for a Cal Grant is put it on hold until you transfer to a 4-year school, just because the tuition at the California community college is so low. You don't want to use your Cal Grant to pay for the tuition there. You want to save it to when you're at the expensive school. Most of your tuition will be covered anyways at the community college. You get the first year free, as an Oakland student anyways, so you don't want to use your Cal Grant on this. So, but that's typically what happens with community colleges, and your financial aid advisor, once you're at the college, will help you with that process. All right, next slide. So this is just a general information about that Cal Grant. So this will change again by the time you guys apply next year. They raise it every year, but I'm just going to throw out an example. I have a 3.2 GPA, and my family size is 4, and we make $80,000 a year. I qualify for both Cal Grant A and Cal Grant B. Or sorry, I qualify for Cal Grant A and C. I don't qualify for Cal Grant B though, because my parents make too much money. So the ceiling caps are very different on the two. So even though the GPA, almost all of our students are going to qualify for both with the GPA. You just need a 2.0 or higher for the Cal Grant B, but you very likely might not qualify for the income, and you need both of these things to qualify. So if you are right at the cusp, like you got a 2.9 right now as a junior, and you know you're not going to qualify for the income for Cal Grant B, I highly recommend you start knocking out those A's this semester and get that GPA over the 3.0 before next year, because it could be the difference between you qualifying for full tuition at school or not. So this is kind of a breakdown of what you would need to qualify for these, but those are the two things: your GPA and your parent income, depending on your family size.
Yeah.
Next slide.
You don't apply
ahead.
directly to Cal Grant.
Yeah.
You fill out the FAFSA, and that's how they decide if you qualify or not.
Mhm.
Then there's another step. You have to go on CSAC. So if you see in the chat, Ms. Hazel put in the CSAC. So it's called California Student Aid Commission website. You just go in there and select the school you're sending it to, update your information, and that's how kind of like, I guess, you confirm your Cal Grant. So there's no additional step you need to do for
Yeah.
Cal Grant, except for once you get it, you do have to sign on to the CSAC website. But we do all that. We do remind students. We have a lot of events. I don't want you guys thinking that you're doing this on your own. We have tons of like support. Just have to utilize it. Okay. So
Yeah.
just letting you know.
And we'll go more into depth next year in the fall about all these programs. But the GPA, don't worry about. We send that electronically. The district sends that all to CSAC. You don't need to fill anything out, and then they'll match that with your FAFSA or DREAM Act, and that's how they see if you qualify. And if you qualify, you'll get an email that tells you and lets you know what your account is. But we'll go more into depth that next year. I just really wanted to point it out though, for those of you that are right at the cusp of that 3.0. If that helps motivate you to get those grades up and get that GPA over that threshold, do that this semester. Make sure you get above the 3.0.
Yep. GPA equals money.
Yeah. So how much will college actually cost me? So when you get your financial aid letter from the school, let's say you apply to 10 schools, they're all going to have to send you a report that looks, this is very basic, but something similar to this, that tells you how much it's going to cost to attend their school. So you will get this and your financial aid package before you have to make any decisions on which school you go to, which is why we suggest you apply broadly, because you don't know what this is going to look like. If it ends up being too much money, you just decide not to go to that school, but you could come up with a financial aid package that actually benefits you, especially at some of the privates. So this is just a general, these numbers are more similar to like a Cal State for resident on campus, but these are just general numbers, but you will get from the schools before you apply. So tuition and fees can range anywhere from $5,000. I think actually it might be closer to $7,000 for a Cal State at this point, all the way up to like $50,000 at some private schools for tuition and fees. That does not include your living expenses though. So you also need to consider, where are you going to be living? Are you going to live in a dorm and use the cafeteria? That is more expensive than living off-site usually. Because if you live off-site, you could either, especially for local schools, you can live with your parents and save money on tuition that way. If you're going to Cal State East Bay, for instance, and commuting, or San Jose State, or if you're going to share a room with a roommate. I shared a room with my cousin at Santa Cruz all 4 years, so we could split the cost of the room. It's not ideal, but helped save a bunch of money on my room. It was definitely a lot cheaper than the dorm rooms. So you can, aside from the tuition and fees, which you will have to pay as a specific bill, And if you don't have the money to cover that, they will not let you enroll in classes. A lot of the other stuff is variable, and it really depends on you. They're going to give you an estimate. So they might say that books and supplies cost $1,200. You don't need to give them $1,200. They're just telling you your books might cost around this. There are ways you can get around paying that. You can check out books from the library. For a lot of professors, they'll put it on hold at the library, so you don't have to necessarily buy it, or you can buy used textbooks. They're just giving you an idea of this is how much we are expecting, but you can get those costs down, which is why once you get your financial aid report, to set up a meeting with a counselor or Ms. Hunter or college access partner to really go through it and kind of see what is the actual price I will be paying for this school.
Right. And I just want to be clear, you're not in college to live lavishly. Like, you don't have to get the largest dorm or the best apartment. And that's not how this works. Stop costing people money. Okay. You need to be somewhere that's comfortable, safe. That's all you really want to worry about. If you're not sleeping on top of somebody, you know, you're not piled up, you're fine. Right. So that's really all you're worried about. So you need to minimize your costs as much as possible. I like to laugh at this miscellaneous $1,800 or $2,000 because that only includes like your haircuts, maybe your underwear, little things like that. You don't need $1,800. Okay. So with that being said, there's a lot of things you can cut out. But don't think that because they gave it to you, you have to use it. Because if your financial aid package has loans in it, you're taking loans out to live lavishly. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. So really consider what your financial aid package looks like. Half the time we get students who will deny a school. And after I break down their financial aid package, I'm like, you didn't even need this extra $5,000, which was your loan. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, think about it. So you're not there to have a blast on other people's money or on your own credit. Okay. So you want to go to school to go to school. I'm saying this from
Next
experience.
slide. And here is a government assistance tool that you can look at as well. You can search any college in the country and it will give you a breakdown of all of these costs if you want to start looking at that. Every school's going to have their own on their websites as well as to how much this costs and what their average financial aid packages are. But if you want to just go to one website to search for everything, this is a great tool to kind of get an estimate as to how much a school is specifically going to cost. And it will also give you some information about what types of financial aid they give and what the average financial aid package is for a student that has a similar income to you. So this is another way you can kind of get an idea now as to what a college might cost you. But again, you're not really going to know what that number is until you've applied and been accepted and they send you this financial aid package, which are coming out now, actually, anywhere from February until April of your senior year is when you will be getting this information from the schools. All right, next slide. So scholarships, this is another great way. If let's say you get a financial aid package and it doesn't meet your need or you want to avoid loans, apply to scholarships. These are free money for you. There's lots of different types of scholarships. There's a lot of local scholarships, and there's a lot of things that they look at for these. So diligence and perseverance pay off when applying to scholarships. You can reuse a lot of your college essays to apply for these. There are some that are available to juniors. There's not a ton. Most of them are for seniors, and most of them start becoming available in the winter. So our seniors are working on this stuff right now with due dates coming up, usually February, March, April. But this can be a great way to get supplemental money, but you do have to apply to them. We do have a really in-depth scholarship list on our Oakland Tech website that you can look at. It's got a lot of scholarships, and there actually is a column that you can see if former Oakland Tech students have gotten scholarships through specific programs, but there's a lot of ways you can search for scholarships. That's a good resource to look at first. But this is a really good way to get some extra money for school if you need that money. And also check your college. This is another thing a lot of kids forget about. So a lot of scholarships, there are a few, especially local ones like the Oakland Public Education Fund, the East Bay College Fund, Marcus Foster, that will actually give you scholarships for 4 years, and a lot of them offer mentorships, which are great. But most scholarships are one-time things. So you might get a scholarship and it will help you with freshman year, but you don't get it again after that. You have to keep reapplying every year for scholarships. So don't think that you can just do it senior year. This is something you'll need to continue doing throughout college. Okay. All right. Next slide. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the last part of our presentation, which is tips of what you should be working on now as a junior, is what if you want to take a gap year? And this is also becoming more popular with students, and I get this question a lot. This can be a great way to take a break from school. A lot of kids are burnt out after essentially 13 years of school straight, and they want to have a break before they start on college. This can be a good way to get a job and earn some money before you go to college. Try an internship and get some job experience in a career you might be interested in, or even travel. So, but just keep in mind, if you are considering a gap year, you need to research the schools to see if they allow that. UCs and CSUs do not have gap years. So if you apply next year and you get accepted to UC Davis and decide to take a gap year, you are forfeiting your spot at UC Davis, and you will have to reapply the following fall to go into the next year. It doesn't mean that you can't do that if you want to do that, but just know they're not going to hold your spot. You're going to have to reapply, and there's not a guarantee you'll get accepted the second time. So just know that. It's mainly private schools that will allow for gap years, and definitely check if they do allow for a gap year and they'll hold your spot for a year, what their requirements are for going into the school. Do not take community college classes once you have graduated from Oakland Tech. If you, let's say, want to take a gap year and reapply to a UC next year, if you have taken community college classes, you are now considered a different type of applicant. You are a transfer applicant, and you need to complete a transfer application, which will require 60 units in your general education classes before you can reapply. You cannot just go and take a few classes to try to save some money and then reapply as a first-time freshman. So really, if you are thinking of a gap year, you really need to have a conversation with the admissions department of the school you are thinking of going into and see if you can do it, and then what their policy is on community college classes. But typically, I would advise you stay away from taking these courses. That's not the point of a gap year necessarily, is to try to get classes done. It's to get experience or take a break from school, but some schools will allow you to take some classes, but it depends on their policy. But definitely don't do it if you're thinking of reapplying to a state school. Okay.
And just to let you guys know, I just wanted to address this. If you took community college courses in high school, you're still considered
Yes.
a high school student. Like, that is called dual enrollment. It doesn't change your status. Don't worry about that. But yes.
And take advantage of that.
Yes.
We'll be doing course selections with you all next week. Take advantage of the dual enrollments we offer. They're free for you, and you get to transfer those credits, and you still get to apply as a first-time freshman, and you get a bump in your GPA. So there's a lot of advantages to taking the community college classes now. But yes, once you have your diploma, you're in a different category for applications. All right, so some tips for now. Do you want to go through this, Ms. Hunter, or do you want me to?
I can go through it. So get organized, something I'm not. Okay. So please try to do this now. You want to create a college email. So a lot of the seniors, I'm telling you, a lot of the seniors' emails were so, I don't know what the word is, but you're not hotmama96@gmail.com, and you're not little daddy 44. Like, I've seen a lot of inappropriate emails, and the colleges will see that too, right? So they can see what email you put in. It's not that if you use that email to set up your accounts that it will harm you necessarily. I just think it's very unprofessional. Everyone else will too. Please just create one. So as you can see, Ms. Martinez's example is amazing. The graduation year, 2022, that's perfect. So please try to use something similar to that. Do not use your OUSD. It gets canceled after you graduate, and you won't be able to get into any of your applications. You won't be able to get in and do your FAFSA or anything. Do not use your OUSD email. Okay, so make one now if you already have one. Also, make one that's assigned to your name. I did see some that were appropriate, but it had nothing to do with the student. Okay, so please try to have your first or last name in your email. Develop a plan to search and apply. So this is really important. So if you don't dedicate the time, you're going to waste time senior year. So you want to just put an hour aside on a Saturday, on a Tuesday, and just look at some schools. Use some of the websites that are on this presentation. Just kind of search around, use Big Future off of College Board, whatever you can do, and then start kind of jotting down which schools you actually want to apply to or maybe considering. It's okay to make a really long list and then narrow it down later, okay? Here we go. Create a list of colleges that you're interested in and their admissions requirements. So you kind of want to get a spreadsheet going. Name of school, right? GPA requirement, other requirements. And so you can kind of know like, oh, I don't qualify for this, but maybe I will after my GPA gets bumped. Your summer school after 11th grade still counts to your GPA for your UC and CSU. So please understand that you need to utilize the summer coming up as best as possible, okay? Know the time frame when to apply. It's really nice to have a column that has a deadline. There are different types of deadlines for like ED, EA, and I'll tell you what those are. So ED is early decision. Early decision is something that is not talked about often, but should be. It's if you decide on a school and you apply early, you get a decision early and it's binding. So if you know your number one school is University of Oregon, right? I'm just giving an example, not necessarily that they have ED. And you really want to go there and you're like, it doesn't matter what it is. I know I can afford it. We already talked about this. I want to go. You apply ED, you get accepted, you're in. You don't even have to worry about applying to any other school, right? Because now you're saying I'm committing. EA, it's called early action. It means you just get an answer faster. So those are not binding. It is for your top schools. But if you're like, hey, I don't know if I can afford this, I don't want it to be binding, you can do EA. So ED and EA are interesting because sometimes the application pool can be more competitive or less competitive. So understand that like NYU, for example, we had a lot of students get into NYU with their ED decision and a lot of students get rejected in their regular application pool. Okay, so understand that that one was easier to get in or less challenging to get in, but places like Stanford are gonna be more competitive. These kids know where they wanna go and they already think they're gonna get in. Their EAs are average of like a 4.5. So you actually have a better chance going through their regular pool. So just so you know that, check deadlines because I've had so many kids go, wait, like I didn't apply to USC and it was January 15th. I'm like, well, it's too late. Miss Hunter, there's nothing you can do. I don't work for USC. Like I can't do anything about that. You have to check these deadlines. We do not send out deadline reminders except for UC, CSU and the January 15th, only because there's so many different deadlines. Some schools are due February 1st, January 1st, December 30th. We don't know. So we can't keep up with all those. There's 500 of you guys. There's one of me. There's 4 other staff. It's a lot going on. Okay. So please just make sure that you guys are paying attention. Next slide. So some tips for juniors. So you're not really focusing on studying for the SAT and ACT anymore, but if you're going out of state and you've already talked to the school and they said they need it, you need to be worried about getting a spot, okay? Focus on getting a spot. So set a reminder, hey, today at 10 o'clock, College Board opens up the test sites, hop on there, dedicate time to finding a close enough location. There's not gonna be any in the Bay Area, like the Bay Area, but in the greater Bay Area, there may be some spaces. So I don't know how that's really working out, but it's up to you to find it. We can't help you find it. We don't even know what schools are happening, right? Make a list of what's important to you. So if size is not important, but location is and activities are, make sure that you're sticking to your non-negotiables. If you say, I cannot go to a college that has more than 15,000 people, don't budge if you know that you'll be miserable. Do not budge. Okay. There's too many schools out there, too many fish in the sea, right? For you guys not to be as strict as you want to be about the school you want to go to, especially starting now. Okay. Check to see if the colleges you're interested in allow visits. Now, there's a lot of virtual visits, but there are some public campuses that you can walk around. I don't recommend it during COVID. Please don't try to walk around. Don't say Miss Hunter said I could go. It's not what I said, okay? So there are virtual visits. It's up to you and your parents if you're gonna walk on a public campus like UCLA or UC Berkeley and see the school. Totally up to you. If you do it, please wear masks and gloves. There's a lot of different people walking on those campuses, okay? So also see if there's some workshops, guys. Like there's a lot of virtual workshops, virtual fairs. You definitely want to attend those and talk to a rep. That's really important. Listen to what their requirements are. They might have some tips and tricks on how to get in that I don't know about. Take advantage of the college rep visits. We will have more college rep visits in the fall. This year was a little shaky, but it seems like the rep visits are going virtual anyway. We will have more schools visiting virtually. Sign up for some rigorous courses next year. Don't challenge yourself too hard. If you've never taken an AP course, still consider it, especially if you're getting straight A's in English. You could totally take an AP English course, okay? So really consider it. Don't sell yourself short. Don't take bare minimum classes. I think you only need to take 4 to be a full-time student. Don't do that. I promise you, they compare you to every student at Tech, and you want to stand out. So if everyone's taking 5 full courses or 6 full courses, excuse me, and you had an opportunity to take 7 or 8 and you took 4, they can see that. You need to remain competitive, okay? So you don't just get to fall off and have senioritis. I know some of you guys probably have senioritis now, you're not even a senior. So I know how it feels. I have senioritis. So you got to stay on it, okay? So please try to stay on it. Like I said, 5 to 6 A through G approved courses. So example, you have to take English, you have to take government, and those are the only 2 required courses. Then you have to look at what credits you have left. Most likely you have some math and a science and an academy course. Right there, I already just named 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead and throw in an extra. If your major is art, throw an art course in there. Yes, you already taken 1 or 2 art courses. Take another one. You want to show that you are, you love your focus and everything like that, and you want to stay versatile. If you love art, it's an easy A. Boost your GPA, right? Next slide. Take care of your health. This is important, especially during the hard times that we're in right now. Even as an adult, I find myself not paying attention to my mental health and my physical health. Get out and walk with a mask. Take some time to yourself. Get off your phones. Oh my God, I know you hear your parents say, but I'm going to say, get off your phones. I'm not saying your eyesight's going to go bad, but screen time is hurtful. Walk away from the screen. Get some fresh air. If you have a dog, take them for a walk, okay? Email someone real quick and see if they have time to chat. Make a one-on-one with me, right? Just get away from the whole social media stuff, because you find yourself comparing and stuff. So walk away from that for a second, please. Sleep. I know it's hard because you're like, oh, I don't have to start school till like 10 or 9:30. I'm gonna stay up till 1 o'clock. I can get about 5 hours. No, get your full 8 hours. You guys are still growing. Parents, get some sleep. Okay. I know it's like you guys are up. You go to work, you hang out with your kids when you get home. Go get some sleep, guys. Have a little sleepover, go to sleep. Do activities that you guys like. There's not much to do outside of school right now, but there's a lot of virtual things you can join. You can still make clubs at Tech. You just have to be virtual. So please try to do that. Study for your AP tests. I know the AP tests are kind of like what's happening. Still study for them. So if you don't know how to study for AP tests, make sure you're just going over what you're learning in class, because it is aligned with the AP test. Stay busy over the summer. So we don't know what the summer is going to look like, guys, but I can tell you right now, there's some type of internship. There's some sort of job. There's some sort of community college class, and I know it, and it's all virtual. So you get to stay home and take a college course. It may not ever happen again. So please take advantage, and they're free. Okay. It's also boosting your GPA for your last year to get your GPA up high. Attend spring college fair. So we have several fairs coming up virtually. Miss Arnaldi posts them on her Instagram. She posted on the College and Career Instagram. It's sent out everywhere. Please pay attention to your email. If you're a student who doesn't check their email, you're missing out. Okay. So just letting you know.
Yeah, please check your email. So a lot of communication goes straight to your email. So like all the communication from your counselors, for instance, on picking courses next week, we've been emailing that to you guys for the last 2 weeks. So please check your email. It's now on the website, but make sure you're communicating correctly. Make sure you know how to check these resources for schools. And I know it's a little contradictory to say like you need to take 6 academic courses and be maintaining your mental health. If you need to meet with your counselor to kind of figure out what is a good balance between my course load senior year and making sure that I'm sleeping, have that conversation. It's not the same for every single student. Every single student has different things that they're focusing on. Your mental health and your physical health is just as important as keeping a rigorous schedule. So if something needs to give in one of your courses so you can make sure that you're sleeping, then that just needs to happen and you need to prioritize that. So don't be afraid to make an appointment with your counselor to go over your senior year classes or come to our office hours to check in or chat about what you're thinking about, so we can have a more in-depth conversation about those things. So This is just some general admission deadlines and dates to just be thinking about. Like we said, UC Cal State is due November 30th. So that's the deadline for those applications. They do start usually in October. You can start filling them out, but that's when they're due. You can't miss that deadline. Private schools, it's all over the place. It really depends on whether you're doing early action decision. Those are usually November 1st, or regular decision can be anywhere from December 15th to February 1st, or rolling admission goes all the way through the spring, depends on the school. So make sure that you're keeping a list of these important deadlines. If you miss it, you're just not applying. That's it. That was the end of that application for you. And some of them, like USC, like Ms. Hunter was saying, have special deadlines if you want to qualify for specific financial aid. So I know for USC, their merit scholarship deadline is December 1st. So if you want to qualify for specific financial aid, you actually need to do it way before their January 15th deadline. So you really need to be looking into these dates now so they don't sneak up on you next year. Community college applications will open in the spring for you to go into. And like I said earlier, we have a full week of community college in mid-April to help you with those applications and financial aid process if you're thinking of a trade school or community college. The FAFSA DREAM Act is due by March 2nd to qualify for that Cal Grant. But if you're doing some private schools might want it earlier, especially if you're doing early decision, early action. Really recommend you just get these forms in by the end of this year. They are going to open October 1st, so you can work on them October, November, December. You don't need to wait until March to fill these out. Your taxes are probably already done at that point. So get these forms in as soon as possible, but the hard deadline for the Cal Grant is March 2nd. Okay. All right, next slide. So, and like Ms. Hunter said, start planning your summer plans, internships, community college, jobs, volunteer. If you want to do summer school to make up a D or an F for A through G eligibility, you're going to sign up with your counselor in April. That's usually when the applications are open. Again, check your email because we would be emailing this information to you once we have it from the district for summer school. But if you do need to make up a course in summer school, April is the time to be checking in with us about the application for that. It's not an automatic thing. We have to have you guys apply and fill out some forms for summer school. Okay, next slide. So again, right now, research college of majors. If you are going to take the ACT or the SAT, and I said with essay, I forgot to edit that. Don't worry about that since they're suspending that piece. Start looking into it now and start reaching out to the schools that you might be interested in that are outside of the UC and the Cal State system that might potentially want an SAT score. Make your plans, keep your grades high, and make sure you're getting connected to all of our different sources for information. It's extremely important now that you guys are virtual because we can't do announcements on the speakers. We can't post flyers around the school. Our only way of communicating with you all is virtually. So check your email every day. Get connected to the College and Career Google Classroom. The class code is up on the screen. Follow the @OTHS College and Career Instagram page. Mr. Arnaldi posts a ton of good information about college fairs and events that are coming up and scholarships that are coming up due. Tons of information. So make sure that these are good ways to get involved with the school and make sure you're keeping up with information. Next slide. All right.
I think that was
All right, and that was the end of the presentation. So we're going to be doing questions and answers, and there's going to be a survey that Ms. Arnaldi is going to post in the chat for you all to go through to just ask you some general questions about the presentation. If you could fill that out, that would be great. So that will get posted in a second. But we're going to do some questions and answers from that you guys have been posting to clarify some stuff. So
definitely make sure
yeah.
you do fill out the link because those students, excuse me, who fill out the link will get their one-on-one first. So just letting you guys know, I will be taking from that list first. So I see some questions. I'll ask them out loud and then we'll go from there. So how do I know if I have what's needed to apply now? For example, enough credits. So if I'm a junior trying to graduate early, how would they know?
All right. So if you are a junior trying to figure this out now, so like I said, next week, actually, we will be doing our presentations to pick courses. And as part of that presentation next week, we're going to be going in depth as to how to read your transcript and figure that out. So I'll be going through like, how do I look at my transcript and figure out what credits I have left? There's a lot of good tools in Aries. So this is a big one. If you do not look at Aries on a laptop, get used to doing that. There's so much more information on your Aries account than on your phone application. Your phone application just shows you essentially your grade books. But if you go on Aries on a laptop, you can view your report card grades, you can view the grade book still, your class schedule, your transcripts are under the grades category. There's also a graduation status that you can click on under the grades tab that will actually tell you all the categories for graduation and how many credits you have remaining in each one. So it's very much individualized. That's a good place to start, but I would highly recommend you just email your counselor to set up an individual appointment or come to the office hours to check in about what you have remaining. If you are thinking of graduating early this year, that is a conversation you really should have already had with your counselor. If not, you need to set that up now. Most students do not have the credits to graduate early unless they have already made a plan. And it's essentially comes down to English, foreign government, econ. And it's too late for us to really enroll you in those courses at this point for the spring. But you could potentially, if you only have a few credits remaining and you're really like set on graduating early, you could potentially finish it in the summer. But you need to have an in-depth conversation with your counselor, because the other thing I like to check in with kids about graduating early are, what are your plans for college?
Right.
Because that's really going to impact whether or not you should graduate early or not. Once you graduate, like I said, you are in a different category for applications. So if you want to graduate and take next year off, that's fine. But if you want to graduate and do community college classes, you're now considered a transfer. And for some students, just because you only have 20 credits left, if you don't take any courses before you reapply to UC Berkeley, you're not staying competitive. You're still going to be in the same application pool with all your classmates that took 6 courses their senior year and you took nothing. So those are conversations you need to have with about what your plans are and why you want to graduate early with your counselor now, if you're thinking about that.
Right.
Okay.
So there's
what is the next?
I want to throw out there. I went up, sorry, Ms. Martinez. So there was some at the top. I'm going to run through those real quick. So will you be going over international college options? No, because it's case by case. So McGill, which is in Canada, is completely different from a fashion school in France or something. So we just, you need to come talk to us directly. Now, I will say we're not well versed. No one's well versed in a specific, except McGill, out of the country college. So some of them actually require 6 years of English. So it would be too late for you in that case, right? So yes, you can reach out, but it will require you taking more courses. It is more competitive when you get out of the country. So please meet with an adult. So I'll just brush that one quick. So talk to us. How can students do community college while they're in distance learning? Ms. Martinez, do you know that answer? Because I do not.
All right, so for community college classes, and I saw another question pop up about taking classes this summer in 11th grade, totally fine. There's 2 ways you can take community college classes. One is you can sign up for them when we do the course selections for dual enrollment. A lot of you are already in those classes, and those are taught at Oakland Tech with the professors. So that's a way you can sign up for community college classes, and you don't need to do anything specific besides enroll with us. There's a process and a form we'll have you go through to sign up, but we actually sign you up. We get your records. We put it on your transcript for the dual enrollments if you take them. When we set up the dual enrollments for this year, the reason they are 7th period is because we set all of this up way before the shelter in place happened. And if you guys remember that we did course selections with you guys down in the basement, we were still on campus. So we were planning on the professors coming to Oakland Tech and teaching them during 7th period in the classroom with you all. That didn't end up happening. So they're actually still at the same time we had scheduled because the professors can't change their schedules around. So they're technically in the afternoon now, but next year, I don't know exactly what it will look like. If we're not back on campus, or if the community colleges still feel like it's unsafe to have their professors on site, you can still take them with us, but they are all virtual. And Peralta uses a platform called Canvas. It's like their Google Classroom to teach all their courses through. So you can still take all of these courses. I don't know what the format will be, if it's on site, in person on tech, or if it will be virtual online. But you definitely can still sign up for all of these dual enrollments for next year. We have psychology classes, art classes, a sociology class. We'll go over that during course selections. The other way you can take community college classes is as a concurrent enrollment student. So those are classes that you actually sign up directly with Peralta, and basically the whole catalog is open for you as a high school student. So you could take anything. You could take history courses, you could take auto mechanic classes, you could take cosmetology courses, there's a baking class, you could take philosophy. Anything is, as long as it's open and it doesn't have a prereq that would limit you to taking it, you can take those courses at specific directly with the community college. So they're still all virtual. So most of them are still going to be through the same platform, Canvas, but you would be in the class with other college students, not necessarily with just tech students. Both of these options, the tuition is free. But if there are any books or supplies, you would have to pay for that if you take it directly with the Peralta schools, whereas Oakland Tech will pay for those if you take the dual enrollments. The way you sign up for the classes in the summer, I have a lot of kids that might want to take these classes in same thing in April. That's when the catalog will be available for summer classes, and you can start searching. High school students usually can start applying to get in the first week of May is when you can turn in your concurrent enrollment application to enroll in the community college classes. So April's a good time to check in with your counselor and start getting the forms filled out once you know what the classes are available. So they're ready to go to turn in May. So you can get a spot before they fill up in the summer courses, but they will more than likely be online, would be my guess. And you will take them through their online platforms.
That was amazing.
Oh yeah. And the question I had about if you want to take it between 11th and 12th grade, yes, take them. You don't count as a transfer student. You only count as a transfer student if you take them after you graduated. So the summer after your senior year going forward, if you take courses, then that's when you're considered a transfer student. But this summer, great time. You're still a high school student. You still get the free tuition. It's still transferable as a first-time freshman. And it helps your GPA before you apply. So you get the bump. And sorry, one last thing, because I get this question a lot too. We do not have access to your records though, due to federal privacy laws. If you take a class as concurrent enrollment over the summer or directly with the school, you will have to request a transcript get sent electronically to your counselor to transfer the credit onto text transcript. I can't request them. You have to be the one to ask them to send it. The only ones I have access to is if you take a dual enrollment, because we have a special relationship. When you do that they send us your guys' transcripts directly, so we can enter them on your transcript. But other than that, because of that agreement, anything you take directly with the school and any online private school or any other school in general, we can't request your records. You need to request that they're sent to us if you need to transfer credits.
Okay, sorry.
sorry.
The question was about community service though. They want to know how can they do community service.
Oh, I thought you said college.
No, that's fine. That's fine, because I probably did. But how can they do community service if they are virtual?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think I want
don't-
to say a lot of the academies waived a lot of things, and that they were doing like some panels and stuff. So I think the community service is not with graduation; it's with the academy, correct?
Oh yeah, community service is not required to graduate. You only need 3 things to graduate, which is 230 credits, you need a 2.0 GPA, and you do a senior project. That's what you need to graduate. And even the last 2 years, the GPA requirement has been waived because of COVID. So I don't know what next year will look like, but those are technically the 3 things you need to graduate high school. Community service is sometimes required to be part of an academy. So they want you to do community service as part of being in the health academy, for instance, and it sometimes ties into your senior project. But that the community service specifically is not a requirement for graduation. So
Go to academy probably.
it's very academy dependent, and they might be waiving it because of COVID. So if you are able to do community service, great, but I know it is limited because essentially you need to do it virtually. So there's not a ton of community service options that are virtual, but there are some that you might be able to do. So, but no, not required to graduate.
Okay, so let's see. Sorry, there are a lot of questions, so we're gonna try to keep these as short as possible because I'm not sure if we're gonna get through all these.
Yeah, I think we're over time too.
Yeah, let me just see. Guys, this will be posted. So for the questions of where can you find this, it'll be posted on the website. Go on the website. If you're trying to apply to out of state, like I stated, you should be still doing test prep for ACT and SAT, but you need to talk to that school. Okay, so please call the school if you're thinking of applying out of state. Call that school, and that's how you'll find out if you need to take it. Let's go to another question. I'm scrolling. Yes, the recording will be on the website. So I answered that question. Okay, so when it comes down to FAFSA, real quick, it says, when will seniors need to start FAFSA? What about juniors? Juniors have nothing to do with FAFSA right now. You just need to start gathering your information. So it's prior year. They're graduating in 2022. They need to have their 2020 taxes ready. So parents, have your 2020 taxes done and ready. That's about it. Seniors start, it opens October 1st. It ends March 2nd. They're going to community college. It goes till September 2nd. We don't help after that. We get everyone done by March 2nd. Okay, so just know that all this will come out. These are questions that you'll get updated in the summer all through the school year. So don't worry about it. If I graduate in 2022, when does a CSS profile due? This has nothing to do with your graduation year. So you will be graduating next year as a senior. Your CSS profile will be due based on the school, right? So that the CSS profile will open up as well, and your school will tell you. Like USC has a different deadline when it needs to be done. They're normally done for like the larger schools. They want them done before December, but your deadline can extend all the way through, similar to FAFSA. So your school will tell you when they need it done because they need to see if you qualify. I recommend getting the FAFSA and CSS profile done by like November, December, because that's when the most merit scholarships are out. Okay, so get them done as soon as they're open, get them done. So I'm just breezing through a couple of these that we've already answered. I'm just reiterating. How do you apply for Cal Grant? You don't, you do the FAFSA. That's how you get the Cal Grant, okay? If you don't qualify, you won't get the Cal Grant. How do we apply for Cal Grants for UC and private colleges after community college? You don't. Once again, it's FAFSA. So if you get the Cal Grant and you go to community college, you still get the Cal Grant. You only get $1,600 though. So you want to put your Cal Grant on hold, and you do that all on the CSAC website. So this will happen in the spring. We'll talk about that in the spring of your senior year. Just to be clear, the SAT taking place in March will most likely be canceled. No, it is canceled. Nothing is most likely. There are no tests. Not happening at Tech. Tech is closed. It's not happening. It's not happening at OTHS. It's not happening anywhere in the district. You have to go out of the district to take these tests. So just want to let you guys know. Does food fall under miscellaneous? Yeah. No. If you have room and board includes a food card on your ID. It's called a swipe card. You pick your meal plan. If you don't live on the dorms, you live in a co-op or something, you will have to put food, but then it comes broken down into a different category. So miscellaneous is if maybe you want to go out to eat for your birthday and it doesn't include like on-campus food. But miscellaneous is like, yeah, all the extra stuff that you need. Ooh, this one. Okay, can you send some information about fee waiver so we can get reduction done so I can complete the payment? I have no idea what question that is. I think that's a personalized question. I will read that later. Yasmin, if you can give me that question from someone. I don't know what
if you mean the fee waiver for the test, just reach out to your counselor. You can find the qualifications as well on College Board and ACT's website by just Googling SAT fee waiver, and they'll break down what you need to do to qualify. Or you can just reach out to your counselor and we can send you the list and you could tell us which one you qualify for, if that's what you're asking about for the fee waivers.
Yeah, it didn't really test much. Even for AP and stuff like that, all that. Yeah,
it's the same. Yeah, it's the same qualification for AP as it is for SAT.
So the other question was answered. How about doing concurrent enrollment? That was already answered. Do you mean college email for College Board? Because if so, I can change mine because I signed up for AP tests with my OUSD email. Everything should be changed. please don't use your OUSD email. If you use your OUSD email for your, I think everyone uses their OUSD email for College Board, you could change it later. You won't need College Board after you graduate high school. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. So you won't have to, even if you do community college, you won't have to retake the SAT or anything like that. So
Yeah,
no,
just
College Board is
just for the college apps.
yeah.
College apps, your financial aid apps, those ones really important, because if you need to reset your password and you no longer have access to these accounts, you can't do it, and it causes a lot of problems.
A lot
So
of problems. Yeah.
yeah,
Another question was, did we already make a college email if we took the enrollment course? When we're talking about a college email, we're talking about an email that is directly to you through Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo. So it has nothing to do with it. So please make one for you, like that you have access to. If you took dual enrollment, you probably have a Peralta email, which is a college email for Peralta, but we're not talking about college specific email. We're talking about an email that you can use when you apply to college.
a personal email.
Yeah. And then, do you find that it's an advantage or not to apply EA? This is more in depth. It is an advantage for some students who qualify for the school who are in that application pool, but it can be a disadvantage for a student who may fall below. So understand that EA and ED are personal decisions, and we can definitely talk about them either with your counselor or with myself. So it's something you should definitely consider, and you should make that choice in the summer. Don't wait, because they open up and they roll out very, very fast. Right now, I don't mean to rush anyone, but we are going to wrap it up. We see a lot of people dropping off and stuff. I'm going to go through this and see if there's some like hit questions. The rest will be posted. You guys will get these questions. A lot of these are like ones we can go over. Advisors reach out. Okay, all this stuff is kind of stuff that I can answer, or it's already been answered. So I have a question for you, Ms. Martinez, and it said, is it true that the teachers, I guess, are only going over half of the curriculum in AP classes? For example, AP Bio, should they take the test anyway?
I think it really depends on the teacher. I mean, there are clearly huge constraints as to what your teachers in the AP courses can cover before the AP exams, considering you only meet with them for half the year. I know some of your AP teachers have, during the off quarter, are setting up office hours for you guys to go get some supplemental work done. They shouldn't be grading you on that, but it is more to prepare you for the exams. It's really up to you whether you want to take the exam or not. College Board gives you the option. You still get the credit for the course and the grade, and you get to report that to your colleges. The AP exam has nothing to do with you taking these classes. But if you do take the test and pass it, you could get college credit. That is the advantage to taking the test. If you don't feel comfortable taking the test, or you don't feel prepared to take the test and you don't want to, you don't have to. That is College Board's policy on the AP exam. So I can't really answer the question specifically, since we do have so many AP courses and it very much is dependent on the teacher. I think AP or College Board as well has scaled back what they are testing. Their test is not fully what it used to be. They know you guys are not having as much time for these exams, and they know you're also more than likely taking them online. So they're not necessarily as in-depth as they would have been like 2 years ago. But I know your teachers are very much, jammed for time to get you prepared for these exams. So I would definitely recommend you study on your own. If you can, and go through like some test guides online for what they're going to be covering, and if there's something your teacher missed, then you doing that research yourself if you are planning to take the exams. I think most of you have probably signed up at this point already, though. So if you are taking them, yeah, I would definitely supplement some of your studying.
Better. But we are going to wrap this up. I appreciate everyone coming out. All my panelists. Oh my God. Miss Martinez, Miss Elizabeth Faulkner. I appreciate it. Miss Viv. Definitely want to say thank you to our moderators, Yasmin, Miss Arnaldi, Nina, Marissa. Thank you. I apologize that we had to wrap it up so quick, but these are really good questions, guys. Like I want to go all night, but I'm tired, and I'm sure you guys are too. So please look for this posting on the Oakland Tech websites, oaklandtech.com, be under college and career.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ms. Hunter, and thank you so much, Ms. Martinez. That was amazing. And as Ms. Hunter just said, we'll post, give us a while. It's parent volunteer driven, but we will get the video edited You'll see a link to watch the video, and then you'll see a link to download the presentation. So you'll see all the slides that Ms. Hunter just went through, and we're going to try and add some extra slides at the end that'll answer the questions that came through on Q&A. Some really great questions. So good luck, everyone, and take care. Have a good night.
Have a good night.